What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, we're going to be talking about Kyle Busch and where he potentially could be driving in 2023 and all the possible avenues and teams he could be driving for heading into 2023. Right now, Kyle Busch is currently in a contract year at this moment and is unclear heading into 2023 where he'll be racing, and he's not signed a deal with either Joe Gibbs Racing or any other organization heading into 2023 due to the lack of sponsorship. And this is due to M&M's dropping their sponsorship with Joe Gibbs Racing at the conclusion of the season. Mars leaving and Kyle Busch losing a ton of funding. So right now we do not know where Kyle Busch will be going in 2023, if he returning to Joe Gibbs Racing or will be going to another organization. So we're going to discuss today all the possible avenues and options that have been brought up in the media over the last 2 months and talk about how likely this could be where he goes and where it might not be a possibility where it goes. So let's start off. First, let's talk about Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, Joe Gibbs Racing, a lot of people are still linking as a very big viable option for Kyle Busch to return to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. And there's been a lot of things that come out very, very recently. Kyle Busch has said as of recently this past week in the media at Indianapolis that he's willing to drop the market value that he has and take some concessions and drop how much he is basically asking for. A lot of rumors and rumblings is that Kyle Busch made about $14.1 million every year on Miss M&M's contract. And he said that he is willing to take concessions and he is willing to take a one-year deal to return to Joe Gibbs Racing next year and take a little bit of a deal. We are getting into a later portion of the year, and we've also talked about this, that Joe Gibbs Racing did have a sponsor for Kyle Busch actually set for 2023, and that was Oracle, who is partnered up with Red Bull. But there's a couple reasons why they did not have a deal set, and the reason that the deal fell through. Number one, Oracle was cutting a lot of their losses, basically cutting a lot of their costs in the company, billions of dollars lost in the company, and we're having a bunch of layoffs in the company. The other reason is because I think it could have possibly been they were associated with Red Bull and the energy drinks surrounding Energy and Red Bull competing against each other. Considering Rowdy Energy is a big growing company right now, that is a very possible reason why that kind of fell through. Now, I think Joe Gibbs wants them to return. Joe Gibbs and Toyota really want Kyle Busch to stay at Joe Gibbs Racing heading into 2023. And the big reason is because, one, Kyle Busch is one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. Kyle Busch won 60 Cup races. He's won 2 championships for him. He's the only one that's won multiple championships. But also Kyle Busch at Joe Gibbs Racing has only scored 4 victories in the last 3 seasons, at least on the Cup Series level. In Xfinity, he's won a lot of races, and also in the Truck Series, he's won quite a few levels in the Toyota stable, and has been the most successful driver in Joe Gibbs Racing history. Joe Gibbs really wants him to return, but he also got Ty Gibbs in the back burn right now, who is waiting to potentially get in the car if Kyle Busch does not return to Joe Gibbs Racing. This could be a viable option for Kyle Busch to return, but if he is returned, they need to find a sponsor. But this is number one option to where he could go in 2023. The next team we're talking about is Stewart-Haas Racing. This is the other one that's been major linked to Kyle Busch, and we've been hearing about this rumor over the last couple weeks. This all started a few weeks ago when SiriusXM NASCAR, actually last week at Pocono, it all started when SiriusXM NASCAR Radio talk about the fact that Kyle Busch has apparently had some conversations with Stewart-Haas Racing, according to the network, and he's had conversations with that ride. Now, what rides could he potentially get into? Well, there's 2 rides that potentially could be available, that being the 10 and the 41 car. Now, the 10 car seems like it's becoming less and less likely because Eric Almirola is currently being rumored at the moment right now to return to Stewart-Haas Racing due to Smithfield. Smithfield has a big commitment to Eric Almirola. They've been sponsoring Eric Almirola for quite a bit of time, really since around 2012 when he started driving for Richard Petty Motorsports back in the day. Now Petty GMS Motorsports, which we'll probably get into them in a little bit. And you look at Stewart-Haas Racing itself, they basically, with Eric Almirola, they want him to stay, and Eric Almirola has a possibility of coming back. The other ride is the 41 car. Now, the 41 car is a Haas-funded car. Gene Haas funds that operation, and Kyle Busch would be willing to come into that organization as well and have funding, and they could wait a year, maybe goes back to Joe Gibbs Racing. That is a viable option. We've also heard through the grapevine that Cole Custer could be leaving the 41 car and dropping out of the 41 car and going back to the NASCAR Xfinity Series heading into next year. A lot of rumors is, one, Cole Custer has not really stepped his performance. Yes, he does have a win in the 41 car, but that was kind of a fluke win. I've always had 2 top 10 finishes in the last 3 weeks. Cole Custer has really struggled this year in the 41 car. But you look at Xfinity, he's done really well. Now, Cole Custer also obviously can go to Rick Ware Racing, which has a major association with Stewart-Haas Racing. But I think if you're going to have Kyle Busch come to ride, it'd be great. Also, Kevin Harvick has said that he'd be definitely willing 100% to work with Kyle Busch. They do have a history against each other. Remember back in 2011 and 2010, they were kind of having rough history against each other. But Kevin Harvick does have a lot of respect for Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick has come out and said that he and Kyle Busch have had a pretty respectful and a great relationship working together. So it's a very viable option, and possibly that Kyle Busch could go to Stewart-Haas Racing and could have 1 year in that 41 car, and would make the 41 the most competitive it has been since probably Kurt Busch's brother has driven in that car. And we'll talk about Kurt Busch in a little bit when it comes to the other team we'll talk about. But you look at Stewart-Haas Racing, this could be a very viable option, and it's another team that Kyle Busch could go to next year. The next team we're going to talk about is 23XI Racing. Now, this is the other big Toyota team currently part of the Toyota pipeline. And Toyota has said that they want Kyle Busch to stay in Toyota. Now, 23XI Racing is a team that's absolutely growing currently at the moment. And there's a couple possibilities for Kyle Busch if he does go to 23XI Racing. The first viable option is they do end up buying a third charter for 23XI Racing. Now, Denny Hamlin has said as of recently they are really not willing to spend and get a third charter. But Toyota, if they wanted to, they could buy a charter from a team, say like Rickler Racing, who could be selling one of their charters, or Spire Motorsports, who could be selling one of their charters to make a ton of money, and they could sell it to Toyota and hand it over to a team like 23XI Racing, and they could have 3 cars heading into 2023 as a viable option. But there's another big factor that comes into play, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch is 44 years old. He turns 44 on the day you're watching this. He turns 44 years old. And Kurt Busch has been out of the Cup Series for the last 3 weeks due to concussion protocols. And there's a very long-term possibility that Kurt Busch, if he wants to stay at least through 2023. But there is a possibility that if Kurt Busch does not improve and does not get better, there is somewhat of a possibility that Kurt Busch could retire at the end of this year if his health does not get better. We've heard that concussions, a lot of drivers who've had concussions like Dale Jr. have not performed as good once they've come back from major injuries. And I'm worried that Kurt Busch may not come back the same if he returns at Richmond or another track here in the near future. This could be a really viable option. Also, 23XI Racing's performance has been getting faster. Bubba Wallace had 3 consecutive top 10s, and Ty Gibbs has done a really solid job in the 23XI camp. This is definitely a viable option you have to definitely look at for sure, and a very possible option for Kyle Busch to go to if he does not return to Joe Gibbs Racing. This is a viable option. The next team we're going to talk about is Kaulig Racing. Now, Kaulig Racing recently has been in the news with this Kyle Busch situation for a couple of reasons. There was a really wild rumor that went out yesterday, or 2 days ago, I should say, that basically showed that Kyle Busch was looking to maybe go to Kaulig Racing. Apparently on Reddit, there was a really wild rumor that Kyle Busch was in the 51 Kaulig car, which, again, I had to check with people. They thought this was absolutely fake. This is not entirely true. And basically, that was a fake because, one, a 51 number, that's a Rick Ware number. Rick Ware is not going to drop that number. And secondly, the 51 car as well, quintessentially, the other thing is that Rowdy's also a competing brand with Celsius, which is a pretty big brand in the Kaulig network, and that would not be there. The other thing that's also needs to be noted is that Matt Kaulig, according to the Door Bumper Clear podcast, Matt Kaulig has not had any conversations with Kyle Busch about driving. But this could be a great option for Kyle Busch to go to, because what he could do is if he comes to this team, he could really build up that operation and make their operation a lot better. You look at Kaulig Racing, they're a team that while this year they've been a little bit down in Xfinity and Cup this year, they still have a win in the Cup Series. They've been a very solid team at points, and they've shown some improvement so far this year, at least on the Cup side of things. And I think Kyle Busch could be a great benefit as a development driver, really could help the driver like Justin Haley develop, and he could be a great driver and asset for this organization. I just think this could be a very viable option. I know it sounds nuts and sounds crazy, but this could be a possible option for Kyle Busch to go to, but he needs to talk to Matt Kaulig. But we know Kyle Busch had conversations with teams, but we do know right now that Matt has not had conversations, but that could change. The next team we're going to talk about is Petty GMS Motorsports. Now, Petty GMS Motorsports right now has one ride that's currently available. The 43 car is off the market heading into 2023 as Eric Jones signed a multi-year deal. However, there are a couple things that are hurting this as a possible option. Number one, let's talk about the 42 car. First of all, the Petty GMS team, no disrespect to Petty GMS. Yes, Eric Jones made their program a lot better this year, but Petty GMS is not on the same level right now as a team like Joe Gibbs Racing or even Richard Childress Racing. They're improving, no doubt about that, but this is not 100% the most viable option, and Kyle Busch would perform less. Another big reason is while Maury Gallagher has a lot of funding and money, is he going to be wanting to pay that kind of money that Kyle Busch probably wants? No, absolutely not. He's not going to want to pay that money. Another big thing that really is going to hurt this is the fact that currently at the moment, that team, like the equipment, is not as good. And like I said, there's another big thing is that Noah Gragson right now is being linked as a possible driver to get into the 42 car next year. Now, Noah Gragson has come out recently and said that he might want to return to the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series next year with Junior Motorsports. But I really think that there is a viable option for Kyle Busch for Noah Gragson to go there. So I think this one is not 100% possible unless Petty GMS expands into a 3-car operation in 2023. The next team we're going to talk about is Trackhouse Racing. Now, I've seen multiple people talk about Trackhouse Racing as a potential viable option, but I'm not entirely sure how likely this is going to be for a couple reasons. Number one, Trackhouse Racing has come out very recently. Taylor Kitchen, who does the Above the Line group, is part of that Above the Line group. She interviewed Justin Marks and asked if Justin Marks is looking to make that 91 Project 91 car as a possible third full-time car. Justin Marks said at Mid-Ohio for the Truck Series weekend, he said no, but eventually we'd like to expand a 3-car operation. It's trying to save a little bit of money. And with how expensive charters are going to be, which they're going to be about $15 million, only 36 charters available, there's not going to be a lot available, and I don't think Justin Marks is going to be willing to spend that kind of money to go after a charter. The other big reason is that Daniel Suarez and Rothstein are more than likely coming back. Chastain for sure is coming back, especially with how successful he's been. But Daniel Suarez is 1,000% expected to be back in the 99 car. So this one is probably not going to happen more than likely. Things can absolutely change, but I do not in any shape or form see Kyle Busch going to Trackhouse Racing. The next team we'll talk about is Hendrick Motorsports. Now, this is a wild one we're going to talk about because Hendrick Motorsports is probably one of the least likely. But Dale Jr. on the Dale Jr. download talked about this. And Dale Jr. said that there's a possibility Kyle Busch could go to Hendrick Motorsports and maybe go into the number 48 car next year. Now, this one I don't really see happening for a couple reasons. And here is why. Number one, right now all 4 Hendrick drivers are currently have their contracts set through 2023. Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, both are set through the 2023 season. William Byron is set through 2025. And Chase Elliott is set through 2027 currently at the moment. So all 4 drivers have their deals set. And I know that while Alex Bowman's performances have not been great this year over the last 7-8 weeks, in fact, he's not finished in the top 10 since late May, I just don't think Hendrick Motorsports is going to be willing to give up all 4 of their drivers. They probably want to keep Alex Bowman, especially if Ally is willing to be committed to stay with Alex Bowman. They're not going to drop Alex Bowman off that car. I just don't see Hendrick Motorsports losing any of their talent currently at the moment. And they've got a good core right now. Yes, some of them do have to prove, William Byron and, of course, Alex Bowman being a factor. But we know that also Kyle Busch, we heard really big years ago that they really had a bad breakup, but it seems like both of them, Kyle Busch and Rick Hendrick, are on good terms. So I think Hendrick Motorsports could be a viable option long-term, maybe like down the road if Kyle Busch only has a 1-year deal. But again, I think Hendrick Motorsports would not be probably one of the most likely candidates. The next team we're talking about, and the final Cup team we're talking about, is Richard Childress Racing. This right here is probably the least likely option of even happening heading into 2023. And I'm going to explain why in turn. First reason is that Richard Childress Racing has both their full-time drivers set heading into 2023. Tyler Reddick, while yes, things have not been going right, and it's a little bit animosity toward Tyler Reddick's announcement of him going to 2311 Racing for 2024. Richard Childress confirmed at the Indy Road Course, well, yes, he hasn't been happy. Basically happy with Tyler Reddick with his announcement. Richard has come out and publicly said that Tyler Reddick will be back in the 8 car in 2023 and will complete his contract with the organization. And, of course, Austin Dillon being the grandson of Richard, he wants to keep him there and will keep him there for a long term. Now, of course, there's that 3rd car that's going to be debuting for Richard Childress Racing, but that car will not be a full-time entry and will be an open entry, the 33 car. But here's another big thing. I don't know if things have gotten better with the relationship between he and Richard Childress. Here's a big thing. Remember, in 2011, Kyle Busch and Richard Childress got into an altercation after the Truck Series race. Joey Coulter was driving for Richard Childress Racing at Kansas, and Kyle Busch basically crashed and had some contact, and they had a fight and fist, an altercation, and Richard got a pretty big, massive penalty, a massive fine for punching Kyle Busch, and I believe apologized for getting into an altercation with Kyle Busch. I just don't see that. I know it's been over 10 years, but I guarantee you there's still a lot of animosity for Kyle Busch and that organization. So I don't see this happening, and this is the least likely for the Cup Series heading into 2023. And now we're going to transition down to the Camping World Truck Series, and we're going to talk about his Truck Series program as a possible option, Kyle Busch Motorsports. This is the only one outside of the Cup Series right now I could see happening. Now, this one, there's a decent possibility this happens, but I'm going to say and talk about this. There is a possibility long-term that this will happen. Kyle Busch, I think, really wants to complete the trifecta of winning a championship in the Cup Series, which he has 2, a championship in the Xfinity Series, which he has 1, but from back in 2009, and I believe he wants to win a Truck Series championship, and I think he absolutely be viable to do that. He's won races in trucks. He's the winningest Truck Series driver of all time, and he probably win 10 to 15 races in a Truck Series schedule and completely dominate the Truck Series season. But here's the thing. There's also been rumors over the years that Kyle Busch Motorsports could jump up the Cup, but I just don't see it really happening. But I think Kyle Busch wants to stay in Cup. I think Kyle Busch Motorsports, at least long-term, could be a viable option, at least for the Truck Series, or even a long-time option if Kyle Busch wants to do that for the Truck Series, complete the trifecta, but I just don't see it happening in 2023. So this could be a possible option, but this is probably the least likely viable option of happening heading into 2023. And now, finally, we're going to talk about something that has a possibility is Kyle Busch may not even drive in NASCAR at all. Let's talk about the Kyle Larson Tour. Now, what do I mean by the Kyle Larson Tour? Well, it's Kyle Larson quintessentially from 2020 going out there winning pretty much every single dirt race that you possibly can, even 2021. Winning every major dirt event he could and running in a bunch of different series. Kyle Busch has had some racing in micro midgets. He's been racing in midget cars. He's got a car that's been racing in the Chili Bowl. He might race a Chili Bowl next year. Has a very big possibility. And Kyle Busch could also go and race in IMSA, could go race in IndyCar as a very big viable option. But Kyle Busch, I think this is a possibility. I don't think Kyle Busch is going to want to do the Kyle Larson Tour. He could do that during the Cup season and go race in other forms of racing. But this is a viable option for Kyle Busch if he cannot find the funding. However, I think Kyle Busch will be able to continue racing Cup. So this is probably the least likely option, but this is a potential option for Kyle Busch to do heading into 2023 if things don't work out and they're not able to find sponsorship funding for him to race in NASCAR heading into 2023. So, anyway, that is going to be for all the viable options of where Kyle Busch could drive heading in 2023, and that's going to be it for today's video. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. And let's go jump over that and comment your thoughts on today's video. Where do you think Kyle Busch is going to drive in 2023? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what team you think he'll drive for. Let me know that in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, there should be a NASCAR news video. There's not a lot of NASCAR news. And then on Saturday, we'll have most likely a race review for Michigan. We'll just have to wait and see how my work schedule is. And then on Sunday, we'll have the race review for the Cup Series race at Michigan as well. And we got more videos on the way coming up here. And also, just a reminder, my live stream is a week from today. I'm not sure. I'll let you guys know exactly what time the stream is going to take place. But a week from today is going to be the live stream. I cannot wait for it. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. And I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.